And then you said also that it would fall, I guess, under the new PUA presentation. How does it fall under the hybrid?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. Question was very difficult to answer because I didn't know which way we would be going. I anticipate whichever model we land on, I don't anticipate it having implications on the campus as it relates to implementing that grant and that design process.
So either way.
I think we'll be fine, yes.
Okay, one last question. You said this particular program was designed for these schools, these communities, do we have any mirror schools or mirror communities that it could also fit into for future reference? Maybe not this time, but for future.
So I will say another school, Patrick Henry Middle School, also went through a similar process. And are not going to continue in that grant, but because they are a transformation school, I'm going to make sure that that school and that community still gets to carry out their plan with transformation funding. So that would be a mirror school that's not necessarily being supported with T-class, the grant, but is being supported by us. And they went through a similar process as those two schools.
I just want some more in D9. How about that? Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, so seeing no more on E1, let's move to F1. Trustee Dygard, since you pulled it for discussion.
Never mind, my question was answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on F1? Okay. We have I1, project number 22, project number 220210. I think that's a 48. So it's I1 22021048.
Okay, so yeah, I was just trying to find the response from administration. So the response says that the expectation is so on and so forth, but how are you going to monitor towards their desired results for this investment?
So God, I, on the wrong one.
What's the item, trustee Dygard? Like, what is the actual?
page number?
So I may have the wrong page 6 of the Q&A.
It's packet page, it's page 6 of the Q&A, and it's, the expectation is that teachers involved in this professional development will increase the number of APs, yeah, so you're gonna keep monitoring this to make sure that this is actually the results that are going to happen and adjust course if it doesn't.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
correct.
all I
That's correct.
really
Yep.
wanted, that's all I wanted to confirm, thank you.
Any other questions on that one? So it was interlocal professional development consultant services and materials for advanced placement courses. Okay, so then the other item is project number 22030348.
And same question, you're monitoring, that, not that you, just that you're expecting this, but you're monitoring that it's achieving the desired result.
Dr. Burt? Yes, that's right.
Okay,
We'll be- yeah.
that's all I wanted to confirm, thank you.
And that was on Carnegie Math, correct?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. The last one held for discussion is I-4. This is the general budget amendment. Trustee Dygard.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up. So again, follow-up question to your response. You state that funds are set aside in the budget where campuses and departments can't access them, but there is an appeal process to access those funds. So what is the rubric and process for principals to get permission from central office to access those funds? And how has that been communicated to principals?
Chief Reed?
Actually,
Or
that
Dr.
would be me. So if this is in response to the question that was posed in the Q&A, that's only for the remainder of this school year. That expires. It's the 75% that was held back. The criteria for schools to be able to access those funds, and I'm doing them off the top of my head, so I may miss one. If it's connected to social emotional learning, school improvement goals, reading and math performance, board goals. I might be missing one. There's one more around if there's been any work that has started this year, but not, and needs to be financially finished, funds can be released for that. When schools provide that information and all the necessary paperwork, it's taking the assistant superintendents about 2 to 3 days to process those.
And how has that been communicated to principal? Like, has it been
Yeah.
consistent or has it been sporadic?
No, it was communicated in a memo.
Okay, because I heard questions from parents about how that was all gonna work.
It was
and-
communicated in a memo that had a flow chart, it had the
Okay.
date, all the information that they needed to
That's
submit.
fine, thank you, I appreciate that.
No problem.
And then I still don't understand how this shows up in the budget amendment, why it doesn't show up until June, if, like, it feels like they're just sort of floating out there in space with no home in our budget, and that doesn't seem right to me.
So it's just sitting, like I said, it's in accounts. We know what schools it belongs to, what departments it belongs to, but it's still sitting there in the budget. They just can't create any kind of purchase orders or spend the dollars. If, for example, we just went in and just cut, let's say we went ahead and reduced the budget for the school dollars, then she has nothing to return to them because we've taken it out of the budget. Right, so it's there so that it can be accessed, and then once we get into May, we have a better idea of what we're not going to be returning, then we can go ahead at the June budget amendment, bring back a reduction from those dollars.
Okay, thank you for explaining the mechanics of that. And then my next follow-up question to that is, I'm still struggling with how, like, we approved a budget last year that made certain allocations, and now the administration has changed that. Like, it feels like we should be voting on something if it's being changed. And I don't understand the legal mechanics of how all that works.
Okay,
You
sounds
talk-
like,
You talk about functions, between functions, or?
Well, we also approve how the dollars are allocated to schools through the resource allocation handbook.
But what you actually approve as far as everything we bring you in June and then every month, the board approves the budget by function.
Correct, but so if we're
Right.
changing resource allocation to campuses, does that not have to come back to the board?
So it'll come back to you whenever we roll budgets out under the new alternative model. They're gonna build their budgets, they're gonna put money in the, whatever functions are gonna put those in for
Okay.
this year, and we bring to you in June.
Hypothetical situation, I'm not saying this is where it's going. If a board then says in June, no, we didn't agree with it, well, it's, like, I don't understand why we approve decisions after decisions and not before decisions. I don't understand the structural mechanics. Maybe that's a legal question?
that's where I was gonna.
What I'm understanding that has happened is you have a budget that was approved at the function level, and a budget is authority to spend. It doesn't mean that you have to spend. So the administration is just spending less money at some of the function levels. And when it actually is returning back to another account, you'll review that, but they don't have to get authority from the board to spend less than the board has authorized them to spend.
Thank you for that clarification.
Trustee Guidry?
Thank you. Okay, so you outlined the items that would qualify under the metric. What about end-of-year events? Is that something that's being considered? Because the money was pulled back before principals had an opportunity to decide what incentives they were going to be doing for the students for testing and award ceremony, those type of items. Are they built in or not built in?
It kind of depends on if those processes were already started, as Dr. Watts indicated, that will allow for some consideration. But of course, the other areas in reference to reading, math, other pieces, those are the major focus in ensuring that those funds are approved or not.
So if they want to give some awards, if it wasn't started already, they can't give the awards, Superintendent House?
We'll take a look at every item as they come in, and we want to make sure they adhere to the guardrails that we've set up.
And have any campuses requested any of the funds to date?
Yes.
And last item, so what will happen to the unrequested funds? What will happen to those monies?
That's the savings that we're looking to realize.
Okay, so that will go on the budget that'll be additional funds we'll have for the next year,
For the trophies for next year.
bigger ones.
It'll go into fund balance that helps fund next year's deficit.
See?
Thank you.
Trustee Baker?
Yes, Dr. Reed, I heard you mention it was associated with SEL, social emotional learning. To what extent is it connected to social emotional learning, and why?
To what extent is what?
You said that I-4 item in terms of the money's been approved, criteria, SEL,
Why is it?
and to what extent is it associated?
I don't know the extent necessary to which it is associated, but I think the board would agree with me that a student's social emotional well-being is foundational to them learning, so we felt like it was important to include that as a line item.
Okay.
Trustee Hernandez?
Just a follow to Trustee Guidry's questions. I've heard that receiving this approval is taking longer than 2 or 3 days. And so then, a principal might use their own money to buy something. Because it is, I don't know, right, what the model is. I haven't seen it personally. But if it does take longer, and principals go out and buy it, and it's approved after the fact, is that something that they would be able to be reimbursed for?
Well, I think what's important, that's a risk that, as a former principal, I wouldn't take. I don't think that's a smart risk to take. Again, we've set aside a process, and we want to make sure that, now, if there's a particular principal that hasn't had an answer, please provide that principal's name. We'll get with that principal to find out where the issue was, but we haven't heard that. We've tried to be very responsive in terms of what this looks like, and we'll make sure to get the answers as quick as possible.
Okay,
Need to know the specific
Yep.
school.
okay.
Absolutely.
Didn't get something?
Thank you.
Trustee Santos?
So trustees, you received an email. There's an organization that we've partnered with for the last 30 years. And Dr. Watts, are we not funding them? Are the schools for Kickstart anymore?
I'm not specifically aware of that organization or how it's working.
It's the karate.
I don't know anything about it.
I'll look into that. I actually received communication from this week, but my understanding is that they've been funded at the campus level, so they'll continue to be funded at the campus level. To the best of my recollection, we've not funded them centrally.
Okay, so I guess that's my question, is that with the budget freeze, certain principals, like Trustee Guidry was saying, can't fund this program? So you're saying just,
If it's already in motion and there have been funds expended already, that's something that we're taking into consideration. So
that they don't have enough for it?
they don't have enough for it?
If the school had enough money in its budget to fund that partner, and the 75% was pulled back, and that was already in motion, all they have to do is go through the requisition to get the additional funds. If they are trying to start a new partnership in March, then it would not apply.
Okay, it's not, but thank you.
Trustee Bluford Daniels?
Actually, thank you. I didn't really have a question, but in reference to what Trustee Hernandez was talking about, the school itself didn't make the purchase. However, there were students, I said it as a referral, but there were students at Patrick Henry Middle School that were scheduled to go on a trip, and I'm getting flooded with emails because the money wasn't sent accordingly, so please look at that. All right, thank you.
Okay. Trustees, any other items? I don't see anyone else in the queue. Okay. J1 was not pulled for discussion. Ms. Hutchins Taylor sent us an email. She got some information just today, so that's why you were receiving it today. And there should be additional information in the portal, if it's not already there, very soon. And I just wanted to give her a few minutes to give us an update of some information that we need to look at before next week's meeting. Ms. Hutchins Taylor?
Good afternoon, trustees. Thank you, President Cruz. This item was not complete at the time of all the information that I received on yesterday. I did not have it at the time that the deadline for submitting backup information to you came around. So that's why it's a little late, but it does involve a lot of really good information related to redistricting. Sid Falk from Bickerstaff Heath, the firm that you approved to guide us through this process, will be here next Thursday. In the materials that were emailed to you today, his PowerPoint presentation that he intends to present next week is there so that you have an opportunity to review it. His initial analysis is there, as well as 2 resolutions that he wants you to vote on. And as I said, I didn't know there were going to be resolutions at the time we submitted the item, so we'll have to amend the posting a little bit for next week so that you can vote on those items. But there's a lot of good information there. His preliminary analysis of the 2020 census data is that we will need to redistrict in HISD. There are 3 districts that need to be realigned so that we're within 10% from biggest to smallest. And those districts are District 3, District 4, and District 7. Those 3 districts. We have, actually, one district is undersized, one district is oversized, and one is right at the borderline for being oversized. So we will have to do some adjustments. He asked that you please review the information with an eye toward the number of public hearings that you want to have out in the community to get input on redrawing boundary lines in these areas, and potential dates that you would like for them to be prepared to hold these hearings, along the lines of the request from President Cruz about getting a timeline in place on how long this process will take.
Go ahead, trustee Blueford Daniels.
Can you repeat those districts you said that, District 3, 4,
And 7.
and 7, and who's on the border? Because, I have 43 schools, so I'm interested in knowing who's on the border, what the other 2 are.
District 3 is about 15% under the what we would call the ideal amount if we could have all districts equal. District 4 is right on the cusp of being 10% over, and 10% is the mark that we don't want to go past. Courts have recognized redistricting efforts as being appropriate if it's less than the 10%. So we're borderline there and probably need to readjust District 4. And you will see in his information that District 7 is 11.2% over. So 2 of them are too large and 1 is too small, so we need to make some adjustments there.
Okay, I was just curious about that because obviously I butt with District 2.
There are maps, some really good maps that he provided in the
Okay.
materials that you have, as well as some detailed analysis on the breakdown of voting age, population by ethnicity, and just a lot of good data in there for you to look at. So you received the email from me this afternoon, and it's also going to be in the portal so that you can access it easily.
Thank you. I see it now. I didn't see it earlier, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchins-Taylor, for that update, and sounds like we have some additional homework this weekend.
Thanks, Rick.
La próxima reunión de la mesa directiva será el 14 de abril. Our next meeting is our regular monthly meeting on Thursday, April 14th, 2022. With no further business to discuss, the board is now adjourned at 6:12 p.m. on April 7th, 2022. Thanks, everybody.